106.5 FM in Las Vegas. Our show is produced by Green Alliance and sponsored by Envy Energy, and I'm your host, Paul Ira. In studio, we have Stowe Shoemaker, Dean of the William F. Harrah College of Hospitality at UNLV, and Michael Delgado, Principal at Carpenter, Sellers, Gatto Architects. And these two gentlemen are a part of the team that built the Hospitality Hall at UNLV, and we're talking about how sustainable it is and some of the practices going on there. Let's talk some more about the design and what's involved in designing a commercial building to meet the standard at the United States Green Building Council Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design Program, Michael.
Well, it starts with a visionary client like Stowe, but I think really it's a whole process. As I said, is that it has to be part of your process from the very beginning, that you have goals set out to do a sustainable project. And as you go through the process, you have to challenge yourself each step of the way to make sure that you're hitting those goals, and that you have to kind of check in to make sure that the data is supported by what you're doing as well.
Tell us about what maybe a couple of those goals might be.
So, for example, on this project, we talked about daylighting. Daylighting was a huge part of trying to daylight as many spaces as possible. We also wanted to make sure that we reduced the energy use substantially in the building, and we worked very closely with our engineers at NV5 to reduce those requirements on the building, so the building can operate very efficiently.
Okay, and so you talked about positioning the building and its orientation to the sun, taking into consideration how much the sun moves. That's got to be a great challenge to you as well, both from a lighting and from a heating and cooling standpoint.
It is, but quite honestly, on this site we were quite lucky because this was the second site that the building was planned for, and is definitely the superior site. And we had a lot of program that we had to fit on a very small site, and the site already orientated in the east-west axis, the long direction. So we're able to maximize the north and south orientation. But what I will say is we were presented with a very unique challenge, and the university, it was very important to them that the building face west, or its entry face west. So at the pedestrian level, that was important. And also, so what we did there is we introduced a series of stainless steel tubes that create an artistic facade, and that blocks 60% of the direct sunlight and filters the other 40%. And it also provides a unique glow for the building at night, and during the day it provides a neat way to look out and see it. Now, the other challenge we had is one of Stowe's most important goals was that this building reflect that it's for the industry and by the industry. And that has to do with donors, but also just how we want to symbolize in the building. Now, that meant that we took advantage of a spectacular view on the fourth level of the Las Vegas Strip. So students can see that view by day and night. And of course, as the sun sets and the night comes alive, we know what the Strip looks like. So we again had a lot of glass need on the west side, but we also found the opportunity to place some of the event terraces that also see the Strip and the greater campus up there, and we were able to use those large overhangs that extend about 40 feet to shade a lot of that glass.
Yeah, I see the building has a lot of overhangs in it, and that's great for shading and a lot of glass. How about construction material cost? The glass is relatively expensive or reasonably priced compared to other building materials? How's that fit into the design?
So glass is certainly expensive compared to some of the common building materials we see around the cities that we live in, but I think it provides you with that opportunity again to daylight the space, to bring user comfort. There's tons of studies about what students do and when they're in a classroom that's daylit, and they have access to view as well. So there's certainly a lot of benefits to it, and the university and the state were great in supporting that.
Well, daylighting is pretty important as far as colors, and being in the classroom and having daylighting is way better than artificial lighting, so that's a really good approach. We've talked about this being a vision and then a practice. Well, how about the construction of this building? That had to be a major team effort with you and the contractor. Was it McCarthy?
Yes, McCarthy was fantastic on this building, and they had a lot of challenges. They had a very complex building on a very small site and a very busy site. We're told that this intersection where the building is on campus is the busiest intersection for pedestrians on campus. They also had no laydown area, so they were bringing materials in what they call just in time. So McCarthy worked very hard from the very beginning of the project, working with us and also during construction to deliver a project that was on time and on budget, and it was a joy to work with them.
So working in construction, the schedule is the Bible. So
Yeah.
the just-in-time delivery of materials, that's got to be coordinated to, down to the last bolt.
For sure.
And have you worked with McCarthy on some other projects?
We have worked with them a little bit. In fact, we had a project that we designed with them that was a victim of the recession, so it didn't get built. But we have worked with them a little bit, but we've actually done work with them recently on their own offices. So
Nice.
it was an honor for us to get to do that.
Great. So tell us about working together from the very beginning. Did you pick your contractor? Did you pick McCarthy from the very beginning, or is that a plan and spec bid RFP approach? How do you do that?
So the delivery method for this project was what's called a construction manager at risk, and they were picked around the same time we were selected. We didn't pick them, but they went through an interview process with the state and UNLV, and so that they were brought in, and what that allowed us to do is they brought a lot to the table during design, different ideas, different ways we might approach things that ultimately save money and enhance the project as well.
And how do they, I can just imagine this where you're at, with all the students all day long, they want to work during the day. I imagine they start very early in the morning with the construction. And then how do they get the trucks in and out? And, the traffic there is a major issue.
Yes, and they obviously can speak to the more details of it, but they did coordinate very closely with UNLV on the times of deliveries. They had set delivery times. The building, the mall that is to the west of the building is actually called Gym Drive, and they did coordinate getting those deliveries coming down Gym Drive before there were a lot of students around, and the trucks were usually gone before a heavy student population was there.
And how about the materials themselves? Did they have input on materials they were going to use?
Absolutely. By having them involved early in the design process, we were able to have a lot of conversations about not just feasibility or constructability, but also the materials they were seeing in the marketplace that were advantageous from a cost standpoint as well.
So are there locally sourced materials? And I know we don't have a lot of forests or anything around here, but are there materials that are being manufactured in Nevada that you're using in buildings?
There are. There's some block on the building that was local. Most of the materials were within 500 miles of the site, though, that we were brought in.
Okay. Well, it's been a great show, and I appreciate the time talking about this wonderful building. It's bringing great opportunity to students here in the Valley. So we hope you'll all tune in next week and keep it green out there. Take a look at us on Facebook. I'm your host, Paul Ira on Shades of Green. We'll see you next week.